Hello everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show. Welcome to the third week of Retrotember. Today we are taking a look at something that is a new take on an old line. And truthfully, I'm surprised it took this long for someone to revisit this line in the first place. Leave us a like, because today we are looking at Nacelle's Sectaurs Warriors of Symbion. I loved the idea and the aesthetics of this line when I was a kid. However, I was already collecting a lot by the time this line came out, so I never really got into it. And even this one with Nacelle, I wasn't planning on collecting this until I saw that they were bringing out the Bug Puppets, which is Wave 2, which I do have on pre-order. I will leave a link to the pre-orders as well as these in the show notes below, because these, the first wave, is still available for sale on Nacelle's website, along with pre-orders for Wave 2. Now, with this, we get a really nice redo of the original figures, except for Stellara over here, because while she was in the comics, I believe, I don't think there was a cartoon out for this, at least I don't remember one, but she was in the comics, but they never made her for the line. So it's really cool that Nacelle brought her out as part of Wave 1. Also, when I was at RetroCon, I didn't even think of this, but when I was at RetroCon, I saw a Dargon at somebody's booth for like $20. It was an old original 80s Dargon. He didn't have any of accessories, but he had his little bug buddy with him, and it was only 20 bucks. I should have picked him up just so I would have had the bug buddy to go along with Dargon, because these, as you can see, don't have like their little bug sidekicks. That's the only thing that is missing. They do have a lot of accessories though. So I missed out on that, but I do think that might be something that I take a look at, that like whenever I go to these conventions, see if I can find some of the old Sectaurs with the bugs, and if they're a decent price, get the whole thing just for like his bug sidekick. I can't even remember what his bug sidekick's name was. Remember, I didn't collect this when I was a kid. But this is a very cool setup. I love the card back packaging right here. It's a fairly weak card back, because I don't think it was meant to be like a heavy stock. It's made to like mimic that 80s card stock, so much to the point that like I have these guys sitting back on stands, and you'll see what they're leaning against in a second here. But there's like no foot up front, so that they can, see what I mean? Like they can't support themselves. I had He-Man and New Eternia, He-Man and Skeletor holding them up back there. But I do really like, let's see what I can do here. I do really like the look of the card back. I like the presentation, their accessories down here, the figure, their name. On the back, we have a bit of a cross-sell. Wave 1 was only 2 figures, but then we have like a bio written up on them right here. You can go ahead and pause and read that for Stellara. And let me bring up Dargon. You can go ahead, pause, and read that as well. The card, it's a little thicker than maybe what I led on to, but you can see it is like a fairly weak one. Also, there's not a whole lot of glue around here, and I think that's so that you can like pop the clamshell off without completely damaging the card back. So let's take a look at what we can do, because they are coming out. So needless to say, Dargon will be our first one right here that we take a look at, but let's see what we can do. Yeah, see how easy that comes off? Just like an 80s card back, actually. And then you can save that if you want to, because it does have his bio and everything on there. And then we have the clamshell. So let's open him up. Let's get him out. Let's get his accessories out. And let's start off with Dargon from Nacelle Sectaurs Warriors of Symbion. Taking an up-close look at Dargon here, one of the first things we want to get out of the way is, you will notice that with this sculpt, the hands, the face sculpt especially, they didn't go in for high detail, for like ultra detail, like the Hasbro figures, for example, or even like Mattel's Masterverse figures. What this is really more of an 80s style of creating action figures. I don't have any Motu Classics, or I'm sorry, Motu Origins, but I feel like it's kind of the same idea, that it's a figure from the 80s as we remember them visually, just updated a little bit with new molding techniques, new articulation. You can especially see it in his face sculpt right here, where it's a very soft sculpt. But, I mean, you can even see that the eyes are a little wonky, and the paint apps are very basic. They're very sharp, though, I have to admit. That, like, you can see it especially right there in the eyes. The hair piece doesn't have a wash to it. It's just like one molded, colored piece of plastic. His necklace is molded to his armor and painted over. And you can kind of see where the paint missed a little bit. And normally I would be upset about something like that, but for this figure, for the aesthetic that they're going for, it kind of fits. It really does. I love this pearlescent metallic armor. I loved it as a kid. I love it now as an adult. This was one of the things, in addition to the big bug puppets, this is one of the things that really made me want to get this line when I was a kid, just like the aesthetics, the visuals of it. I also dig how the armor is kind of designed to look like a Bugs Chitinous exoskeleton. That, like, is he wearing something or is this just part of him? I really dig that. His antennas up here, molded in a very soft gold plastic so that they'll bend but they won't break. They're also a little off from each other, but I'm okay with that as well. Then we have his gauntlets down here. His legs, once again, basic sculpt to them, very soft, nothing major. The boots are awesome too, with the detail and the quilting, like the cuts in the boots. The boots, the armor, and the gauntlets all have a black wash to them, giving them some depth, some definition. That is the only thing I can think of that is, like, new. That, like, I don't think the 80s figures had something like that. That it was just silver, or just like a bluish silver right here. He comes with his dual holsters to hold his pistols, something else that we'll take a look at more whenever we look at the pistols. But just like an 80s figure, they're hollow. It's not an enclosed piece. It's just made to look like a holster. You can see right there, looking up the bottom, that we can see all the way up them. Also, what is interesting is that he has a belt buckle. Let me pop this off. It's a little stiff. Okay, here we go. This can just pop right off, and you can take the belt off to get a better look at the figure. Now, once you do that, though, you can see that there is a very plain piece of plastic right here, and there's a little bit of gapping at the waist twist. So this was definitely made for the belt to cover. Once again, kind of going along with, like, that 80s method of making toys. Now, I'm going to leave that off while we check out the articulation. That the head will do a full 360 spin. It's very tight. There's no up, there's no down, there's no tilt side to side. It's just the neck right there. The arms, however, will do a full 360 spin. We do get a shoulder joint, sorry, that comes up to about 90. No butterfly joint, no bicep swivel. There is a double jointed elbow. Now you see right here that the first joint is right here at the elbow. The second joint is hidden underneath the gauntlet that lets you twist and bring it up to there so that he can come up to 90, not just this semi-90 and then holding it there. So he does have double jointed elbows. It's just moved up a little bit. It is also a hinge and swivel at the elbow, so he has movement there. Wrists will pivot, but they don't, or I mean, wrists will swivel, but they don't pivot up and down or hinge in and out. The waist is just this right here that you can see that he'll do a full 360 spin at the waist. There's no crunch forward or back. It's a little bit loose on this single peg. You can even see through it right there. But that's all we have for the waist on him. Legs, they'll come out to just under 90. They'll come forward that far to 90. Whoop. They'll go back to there. There is a swivel joint in the hip right there. Double jointed knees that really, really crunch in very well. And they're very smooth too with the movement right there. No boot cut, no thigh cut because it has that hip joint. The ankles, I thought the ankles would rock back, but they don't. They don't rock back. They don't rock forward. There's no pivot side to side, but they do turn so you can get some movement there. I do wish they had some articulation down here. I understand what they're doing with the articulation, going for like that 80s feel, but I feel like the ankles are one area that they could have broken that rule and given us some updated articulation there, because I'm fairly certain that this is new. The first thing we're going to take a look at is his pistols right here. He has these twin pistols, and all of his accessories are molded in this gold plastic, and they have some pretty decent detail to them for what they are. These do remind me of the weapons that you would get with figures like this. There was always a lot of detail on the weapons because I think they thought like molding them in gold, it was the shiny thing. It was the thing that like kids would pay attention to the most. That's why you saw like a real decent amount of detail in even like the Motu weapons, whether they were melee, whether they were ranged, lasers, energy weapons, things like that. I really dig the design of these ones. The flatness with like the barrel up front, like maybe these, considering he's a bug, maybe these are like web shooter guns. You have your little hole down here, a little eyelet down there in the handle. I think these look really cool. All of the accessories are a very soft rubber that will bend rather than break. You saw with his hands that he has just these open mitts right here. There's no finger articulation. There's not even any finger separation. And you can see there's really no trigger to these at all. All of his weapons just fit right into his hand, very much like an 80s toy would be. Once again, I cannot stress enough how much this is like just an updated version of an 80s toy. And I have to admit, this is more charming to me than I thought it was going to be. Like this is definitely having more of an effect on me than I was expecting. Because I was honestly wondering, how's this going to hold up when I open these up? Like how am I going to feel about them after having like my classified figures, my beloved G.I. Joe classified? I'm actually really digging this guy. Next up, we have this rifle, and once again, it is molded in that solid gold rubber that we have going on. It has a top-loaded magazine. Once again, there's no handle. It's just a straight up and down grip to fit in his simple mitts right there. We have a stock that, interestingly enough, once we bend the arm, you'll see that the stock actually works. And we have a decent look for the barrel. Just blunts off right there. None of the weapons have like bore holes for blast effects or anything. Once again, these are very 80s style weapons that we put it in his hand, just put it in, twist it a bit, and then you bend the arm. And there he has the stock in his shoulder. Can he get in a cross body like holding position? It's not the best looking, but he can if you want to, like he's holding it at the ready. So that's cool. The one thing that we don't have with this that I'm kind of bummed about, and we're going to see this with the sword in a minute too, is that like there's no place to store the rifle. It would have been cool if there had been something along the back that he could like stash the rifle or his sword, which we're going to look at in a minute, across the back. But the rifle is just going to kind of be out there. And here we have his hexagonal shield, which I believe this is something that he had from the 80s line. Very simple, very smooth plastic, just has that little star logo, his star heraldry up front that matches the crest on his necklace right here. And on back, it's just held in place by a handle, which I know looks like it's bent, but it's actually very soft rubber that it'll bend out. And going with these simple grips, it just fits. Come on, fits. It just fits right into his hand. There we go. And he has his shield. It's a little small, but it works for him. I like that. Let me see how we can get this. There we go. You can just have it up like so. There we go. So with that second bend right there in the wrist. Okay, that's cool. I like that. And then finally, there is his long sword, which I love that it's designed to look like a stinger, like with these segments right here, like it's part of like an insect stinger right there. I really dig that. Once again, molded in gold. Once again, a very soft plastic that will bend rather than break. And what's also impressive is that considering how soft of a plastic, sort of a rubber, more like a rubber that these are, they all came fairly straight. Like that little bit of bend, I think, was just me doing it right now. But like this, the rifle, the shield, all of these came fairly straight in the packaging, which I really love. And then once again, simple fit for a simple hand. There we go. He has his shield, he has his sword. This is what I mean. I would have loved if there would have been like a back holster or something that we could have put the rifle on with him as well. But this is a good look. The twin pistols, the shield, and the sword. He almost doesn't need this, but I think I have an idea for this, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Okay, up next we're going to get Stellara out of the packaging, and one thing I forgot to point out, on the back, not only do we have the cross-sell, not only do we have the bio, not only do we have an image of the figure with all of her accessories, on each one of these is also a proof of purchase, 2 points, and I'm curious to see if they're going to do anything with this, because we've already seen Valaverse do mail-away figures with these proofs of purchase. Nacelle, if they're putting them here, I don't doubt for a second that they're going to do something with them. Maybe they already have, and I just haven't checked on the website lately, but I'm curious to see what will come of that. And here we have Stellara, and for as much as I like Dargon, I really love Stellara. I love the coloring of her armor that you can see right here. This pearlescent bluish silver with the purples coming through on the back as well. Now, her harness right here, which is a necessity, and we'll take a look at that in a second, but her harness does come off entirely if you want to take it off. And we're going to, so we can get a look at the entire figure. That just like with Dargon, there is this belt buckle right here that comes undone, but then she also has this peg underneath her arm right there that comes undone. And then it just pulls up over her head and then comes off, and here we have her. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that her torso, for whatever reason, is one solid piece. She doesn't have a torso twist. And I thought that was going to bother me, but it doesn't, because when you look at how well done the design of her armor is right here, of her upper body armor, it looks fantastic, and you kind of wouldn't want to break that with a line. Although it looks like they did add a place in here where they could have separated it to give her a torso twist, but they decided to go with just a solid buck right here. And I'm kind of okay with that. Once again, just like with Dargon, very simple sculpt, very soft sculpt, very basic paint apps, although she has eyebrows, she has some coloring to her lips, she has those same blue eyes, same blue intense, I mean business eyes, and her hairpiece is a brighter blonde. Is that the same hairpiece as... No. Okay. So, and her hairpiece is a brighter blonde. Once again, very soft gold antenna. Bare legs, no exoskeleton on the legs. Bare arms, nothing there. And the same like pearlescent silver blue purple for the boots, which I freaking love. I also like these little spines right here on the back of the boots. Dargon doesn't have those. I like how she has these spikes right here. Now, something that I should have shown you before I fixed it was that when I pulled mine out of the packaging, her arm was like this, that the cuff was on the inside, and the cuff doesn't twist, but all you have to do is bend the elbow back, turn at that hinge and swivel at the elbow, and then bring it up, and there her arm will be set the way that it should be. So now that you've seen that, let's take a look at the articulation. That once again, the head will do a full turn. No up, no down, no side to side. Arms will do a full 360 spin. Arms will come up a little bit past 90. No bicep swivel. Hinge and swivel at the elbow. And we kind of do have that same double joint. That like, there's the first joint at the elbow. And then this comes up just a little bit, not nearly as much as Dargon's do, but I think that's because the arms are thinner and there wasn't as much room to put as much articulation or put as big of a joint as what they have on Dargon. Wrist swivel, no hinge up and down, no hinge in and out. Once again, nothing at the waist. We have that hidden joint at the hip right there to turn her legs. Legs will come forward that far. Legs will go back that far. Legs come out, whoa, over 90. I didn't even notice that the first time. Double jointed knees, which once again, great travel, very smooth. No boot cut, no ankle back, no ankle forward, no side to side, but they do pivot. Hers are a little bit more tighter because the sides of her boots come down more than Dargon's do. I love this figure. I think she looks great. The only bummer is that with Wave 2, there's no bug for her. There's no mount for her. Hopefully, eventually, she'll get her own mount because, truthfully, for as good as this figure looks, she deserves her own bug to fly. So let's put her harness back on, and let's take a look at her accessories. So whereas Dargon's weapons were all molded in gold, Stellara's are molded in this sort of brass bronze color going on right here. Bronze is more like it. The first thing we're going to take a look at is her dagger. Not nearly as much detail in the blade as Dargon's sword, but I'm fine with that. We do have a little bit of detail in the handle right here. Once again, Sectaurs, Stellara right here, her accessories, much like Dargon, very soft sculpts, very basic sculpts, but that's just the way it's going to go for this one. Now, or for this line rather. Now, the dagger, whoops, fits into her hand very well. She can hold it. She has a decent grip on it, either forward or backward. The problem, though, is that here is her dagger sheath right here. It doesn't really fit in there well. It's very loose. You can kind of fudge it by shifting it forward or shifting it back, twisting it a little to get it to sit in there tight. But it's not like Dargon's blasters and its hip holsters. It's very loose right here. I feel like this should have been just a little bit tighter. If you kick it off to the side like that, it'll stay in there tight. But yeah, you're not going to be able to get it to come straight down and stay tight like that, unfortunately. She also has a shield. Hers is a little bit smaller than Dargon's. Hers is also more of like a kite shield rather than like a play on a circular shield. She also has these like armored, like exoskeleton cuts in the shield as well, but she has that same star logo going on. So I'm guessing this is the logo for the good guys. Once again, didn't collect this in the 80s. Don't know that much about it. Holds the shield the same way, just this handle coming out the back. Hers is smaller, more like a buckler rather than a shield, but she can bring that up like so. Whoops. She can bring that up like so. Her wrist keeps twisting. Her wrist is a little loose. There we go. And then finally, she has this thing that looks like it should be a double barrel sawed-off shotgun. And this is just cool. I love the design of this. I love the honeycombing on the handle right here. I love the veins like around the forward barrel of the gun. Once again, there's no trigger, but there's a little bit of a nub for a trigger right there that you could use for the trigger. Has a little bit of business here underneath. The barrels are not separated, nor is there any hole or any gap in there. I might get like a Sharpie and paint off the front of the weapons just to give them like that black finish up front. Now, she can hold this very well, just like Dargon could hold his. She holds it very well. She'll have to hold it sort of like at a low angle because of the way she holds the weapon. So she'll have it down like that. But also you'll notice she has this big chunky backpack right here that come on, fits in a back holster very well, which I think that's just cool. Like that looks cool that she's packing heat like that on the back, on her back like that, slung on her back. Now, remember I told you I had an idea for Dargon's assault rifle? I don't know if the good guys in the Sectaurs have a weapon specialist, but with this and the gear that she's packing with this shield, the dagger, and then like this sort of double-barreled shotgun thing right there, because the hands are designed so simply, they can hold each other's weapons very well. Oh, her dagger just fell out. That like, you could have her be the weapons specialist, that she has the shotgun in back. She has this little dagger for melee because like she's not really a hand-to-hand type person. She's packing the assault rifle, and then she has this small shield here just for like personal protection. But there we go. Like, it's not the same color as her other gear, but it doesn't really stand out either. And like, she could just be packing heat all day long. Okay, here they are side by side. Let's put the tape measure to them and see how they measure up. That Dargon over here is roughly 6 3/8 to the top of his head, approximately 7 inches tall to the top of his antenna. And Stellara over here is pretty much the same height. She's also 6 3/8 to the top of her head, 7 inches tall to the top of her antenna. So it looks like in this line, the males and the females are going to be pretty much the same size. I dig that. And now for size comparison, here they are beside Hasbro, Star Wars The Black Series, Knights of the Old Republic, Darth Revan, and Darth Nihilus. Here they are beside Hasbro Marvel Legends, Psylocke, and Taskmaster. Here they are beside Valaverse, Action Force, BotCon exclusive Locusts. I've had this for so long I forget where I got him from and what he is. And Pandora. Here they are beside Four Horsemen, Mythic Legions, Green Knight from the Knight Armory series, and Boss Fight Studios, Epic Hacks, Red Sonja. Here they are beside Frazetta Girls, Icon Collectibles, Conan the Barbarian, and Vampirella. Here they are with Mattel, Masters of the Universe, Masterverse, New Eternia He-Man, and New Eternia Skeletor. And the New Eternia line, or even the Masterverse line in general, I think you could fudge them into this line as well, because who says they have to be as tall as the Eternians? Here they are with NECA Toys, Dungeons & Dragons, Warduke, and Strongheart, and once again, Dungeons & Dragons, anything is possible, size doesn't really matter. And as always, here they are beside Airborne and me from the G.I. Joe Steel Corps. Okay, so I am really excited about having these two figures. I am really excited about starting this line. This is a great set, these two. And honestly, this may be the set, this may be the new line that I am excited about the most this year. Yes, the articulation is basic. Yes, the sculpt is basic. The accessories are basic. Like, everything harkens back to that basic look of the 80s. And that's one of the reasons why I love it. Because quite honestly, getting these in hand, it feels like a toy. And I don't know if I can explain what that means. Like, when you get your hands on a classified figure or Mythic Legions figure, or even some of the newer Marvel Legends, you're a little bit delicate at first with the articulation. You're a little bit iffy about, am I forcing this into his hand? Is this going to fit right? Am I going to break this if I push too hard? Whereas with these, it was just, okay, let's pop the accessories in their hands and let's go. This, coupled with my newfound love of collecting the old Pirates of Darkwater line, like, this has been like a true Retrotember. Like, I can't even begin to describe how into these old lines I am. And honestly, I didn't think I would get this into like those old 80s lines. Like, this definitely isn't a nostalgia thing because I never had these in the first place. But this is very much, holy cow, these are cool. Stellara and Dargon here, for as simple as they are in the sculpt and the paint and the accessories, look really cool. Like, you cannot deny that there is just a cool factor about Sectaurs that sort of like other lines don't have. It makes this line very unique. It did back in the 80s, it does now. And wait until those puppets come. I cannot wait for them. What is it? Dragonflyer, Spiderflyer, and General Spydrax are Wave 3. And yes, I have them on pre-order, and I can't wait for them now. If you want these two, they are still available at Nacelle's website. Once again, I will leave a link to that in the description below. Honestly, the cheapest place to get them is directly from Nacelle. They come out to like $25 a figure. The bundle is only like 50 bucks. I think it's like $49.99. There is shipping and handling, but it's for the figures, it is the least expensive way to go. And then while you're there, you can also pre-order Wave 2 for the two Flyers and General Spydrax. I really want this line to succeed because I know there was a lot more like individual figures to go along. I think there were only 2 puppets. I can't remember that, but I know there's a lot more figures to go along with this, and who knows, if this succeeds, will we get an updated version of the Hive? That would be really cool too. Don't touch that dial. Before you go, please remember to do all the YouTube things like share, comment, subscribe. If you already are a subscriber, what a legend you are. If you like what we do here and you want to help the channel grow, please consider becoming a member, whether through YouTube memberships or our Coffee monthly subscription. Links to that in the description below. Both of them for $1 a month, you can get access to exclusive content, such as our monthly member exclusive video. So until next time, my friends, play well, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, thank you for watching.